Mighty Mercury, except it just looks a little different because ejected. Ejected.
What?
Get the heck out of here, Derek.
What did I do?
Get out! Welcome back to the PHNX Mercury podcast, live from Studio K, presented by our friends over at Circle K. I bet our friends over at Circle K are just as hyped as I am right now because Mercury dub, and since we didn't get it right, Mighty Mercury.
Mighty Mercury.
Just music in my freaking ears. I know you can't see, but I changed my little AT for MVP sign to say AT for FMVP, for Finals MVP, because Merc and 4, Dream is alive, everything's alive, we're up, Merc is up. 84-76 victory over the Lynx, and it was an unfortunate outing for the Lynx. To say the Cats were frustrated, I feel like is a mere understatement, and it showed in every way in this game. And it was exciting from beginning to end. I don't even know how many lead changes. Let me pull up the stats on this whole game really quick. Should have had that pulled up and ready to go. That's on me. No one else. That's on me. But
You're just excited.
It was a crazy game. There were a gazillion different lead changes. There were also a million different foul calls. I was literally talking to Steven after the second quarter, right at the beginning of the third quarter, when I don't remember who went to the line for the Lynx, but someone went to the line, and I was like, dang. It was the Kayla McBride 3-point foul. And I'm like, dang, this is the most fouls that they've called in the entirety of the series. So it was tough, but you hate to see that. And honestly, we're going to have a conversation about the ejection from Cheryl Reeves here in a little bit. But frankly, it was a great team win for the Mercury. And I'm not going to let any type of officiating conversation or conversating about how anything wasn't fair take away from the victory that was tonight. It was an incredible win. And I was on the way to pull up the stats about it, and I got sidetracked listening to myself talk, to be honest with you. But let's see. Lead changes. That's what I was here for. 15 and 8 ties. That's crazy. And we're going to go ahead and get to the by the numbers because Steven is going to join us very shortly, but he's coming from the arena. And so we got to get started on this shindig. We got to hoot and holler a little bit. And yeah, I would like to say Cheryl complaining about the refs of all people is absolutely rich. Like, if there was $1 million in this world, I would have all of them because it's just rich. It's rich. And she talked about how Fee went to the line 0 times. And you could say the same thing about Clea Copper, literally any other game in the series. So I just shoulda, coulda, woulda.
I will also say that Cheryl Reeve in the postgame was talking a lot about how there were fights in the game. And I think that the altercation in which she's referencing was the one initiated by her player. I know that Satu Sabali was given a little bit of smack talk, but the bump was from a Lynx player. So, yeah, I think just a lot of frustration boiling over there for Cheryl Reeve. And that was I know we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but that was kind of a crazy crash out. I'm not going to lie to you.
I'm not going to lie. That was me as a head coach of a WNBA team, and I don't mean that in a positive way. And so I apologize to any Minnesota fans watching this. That was absolutely diabolical. But yeah, let's get into the by the numbers because this is a fun game. And yeah, Mercury shot 46.2% from the field while the Lynx only shot 42.3%. The 3-point percentage, the Mercury did have about an 8% advantage, shooting 33.3% over the Lynx's 25%. They did unfortunately have 15 turnovers to the Lynx only 12, but they out-rebounded the Lynx 37-29. Holy crap, Kevin. That's crazy. Yeah. Sometimes, I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest stat watcher in the world. That's more Steven's department, unfortunately for myself. I'm an eyeball watcher. I'm a rememberer. Remember when this happened to that specific moment in the game? Steven is the stat watcher. And so sometimes I look up and I'm like, oh my gosh. And that is genuinely one of those moments that just got caught on 4K because that's crazy. 8 more rebounds for the Mercury than the Lynx. And I mean, you have to ask yourself, is that what got them the victory today? And so, yeah, it was a huge win for the Mercury. This puts them at 2-1 over in the series over the Lynx. And we talked about it in the last post game. Like, this was a pivotal game for the Mercury, considering this is a turning point for most teams. They're either going to crumble or they're going to get it together. And this is one of those games where we saw the Mercury put it together for 40 straight minutes. Steven and I talked about in the first 2 post games after the first 2 games against the Lynx, like, you have to play a full 40 minutes versus the Lynx. And that was 100% what they did tonight. They put together a full basketball game beginning to end. I think Fee scored the first bucket, but after that, it was back and forth. And now we're here, Mercury on top. And yeah, it was crazy behavior. But we got to give a few things credit for this win. Number 1, Dolores and I's halftime prayer. She saw me during halftime. If you know me, I like to meet up with my people at halftime, and I was running back, I should say. And Dolores said, "Hey, can I have your autograph?" And I said, "No, but you can pray with me for the Mercury to win this game." And that's exactly what we did. We joined hands in the concourse. And I said, "Dear Heavenly Father, please, please, please let the Mercury win this game. Amen." And then what happened, people? And then the other thing we owe this game to is what, Kevin?
So I asked Steven on the last show about this playoff hat because I told him I think it might be a good luck charm. And after our last pod, Steven came up to me and said, "Look, I don't think I gave the hat enough credit. We gotta put some respect on the hat, and this has to stay on your person at all times during this playoff run." And so far it has. And the Mercury have gotten another dub, 2-0, with a historic comeback under this cap right here so far.
2 very important things got us to this victory. Well, actually 3. Number 1, the hat. Number 2, the prayer. And number 3, Alyssa freaking Thomas. And that's why I had to change my pin to say Finals MVP, because that's exactly what she's going to be to this team in a week or two. A week or 2, party people. That's what we're looking at. And Kevin, can we go ahead and get into this X factor of the game, actually? Because Alyssa Thomas with another historic stat line, 21 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, and 7 stocks. That's 5 blocks and 2 steals. Or actually, I have it flipped. 5 steals and 2 blocks. And this is the first time in WNBA playoff history that this stat line has ever been achieved. This is an absolutely crazy stat line. Let me just contextualize this for you. She's 3 off of a triple-double in the playoffs in a very, very important game over a team as good as the Lynx. And I mean, the Lynx were playing some pretty good defense on Alyssa Thomas. I would say. I wouldn't say that they were being easy on her. She just made tough shots, made tough passes, jumped higher than everybody on the glass. Like, she was locked in. And you could say that about everyone else on this team for that matter. Satu Sabali, it was unfortunate, like very close to being our X factor of this game with 23 points, 4 rebounds. And it sounds quiet, right? Those 23 points and 4 rebounds, especially when I just get done talking about the stat line I just talked about. But realistically, like, again, team victory, and you're going to see why when I continue talking about these stat lines. Kalia MF Copper, 21 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists. And this was, I believe, her best scoring night in playoff history for herself. This is her career playoff best scoring performance. Might not be her most points, but it is the best shooting percentage that she's had in the playoffs. So huge victory. And when we've been talking about the Big 3 construct since the very beginning of the season, but it hasn't, come together yet because of injury and adversity that this team has seen. But I think this was a team that dug deep, and when you have your Big 3 firing on all cylinders, it works out. And Home S brings up a great point that, like, Ka did have an unfortunate second half, but Satu only got 1 shot up on goal in the entire first quarter. And so, if Kalia's going off in the first half and Satu's the one going off in the second half, pick your poison. It's tough. And, Kalia, Sammy, Satu were giving the stud buds a rough go at the run tonight. So it was just a fantastic showing for the Mercury, a rough showing for the Lynx, and you hate to see it in playoff fashion for the Lynx. Well, they hate to see it. I don't hate to see it. I love to see it. This was incredible for me to see personally. But yeah, 16,000 people at PHX Arena on this fine Friday night, and they just could not be denied. It was one of those games where the crowd was too much, and it was crazy. Like the vibes in that arena were palpable. You could feel it when, the game was starting, that it was going to be electric in there tonight, and it was from beginning to end. The upper bowl was, very full. I'm going to say it again, very full. And, when you have 16,000 people screaming for victory, makes it tough. And, we're only 10 minutes into the show, and we already got a super chat from our guy, BComC Clearly. And you always got to proofread these before you put them on the screen. But my guy said, Kendrick said, why you think you deserve the GOAT? And Monday, I officially become the supervisor. GOAT in human form, Merc up, Rebel Heart Mercury. Yeah, I agree. And I do want to take a moment while Steven's not here, before he gets here, to address the Jonas Brothers of it all. Because Sean Sellers says, I hope Eric's dream of the Joe Bros singing the national anthem for Game 4 comes true. And hear me out. Kit said in a pregame video today when they were asking them for their favorite Jonas Brothers song, she literally said, I hear that they're singing the national anthem at Game 4. Where'd you hear that rumor from? Because it might have been me. Am I spreading propaganda to the Phoenix Mercury? I don't know. All I'm saying, this is actually my apology to the Jonas Brothers fan. Unfortunately, we couldn't pull it off in Game 1. We should have. It was tough, You hate to see it. The Mercury retired, but they pulled off Game 2 victory, and unfortunately, that means Game 4 was guaranteed. But now they might clinch the WNBA Finals on Sunday here at home. And so it's been, what a gift. SD says, I've been in the year 3000, not much has changed, but they got Merc the chip. Man, what vibes. Dude, the vibes are so up. Kevin, have we ever been so up? I don't think so. Merc Nation. No, Deborah, the concert was not changed to another venue. It was just changed to another night. But that means the Jonas Brothers will be here and available on Sunday, September 30th. I think that's what day that is. And so, yeah, an absolute... You would love to see it. If the Mercury could make that happen, you would love to see it. I see my guy Steven is walking toward the door. So that means we only have a few more minutes of just Erica. So if you guys have any questions about the Jonas Brothers of it all, bring them now, because this is your chance. I'm okay. I got to stop getting distracted by the things going on the screen, because there's a lot of them, but that's okay. Merc's dubs in the chat. Steven's here. We're about to be more dubs in the chat. There's all the dubs in the chat, to be honest, today. And we're going to why don't we just go ahead and show the picture of the hat again, so Steven can get into position while I keep talking about my guys. Yeah, dubs were up. The vibes were good. I'm excited to be here with you guys. Be sure to leave a like, thumbs up. I hear there's a Die Hard sale. I'm pretty sure I said in the Monday post-game show, there's going to be a Die Hard sale very soon, guys. And what do you know? Oh my gosh, my bestie and roommate in the chat, he says, not the Joe Bros getting ejected from the arena before Cheryl did. LOL, this is crazy. Steven, my guy is here. SPG, QB1, on and off the field, in and out of the studio, and about to be in and out of the WNBA Finals if the Phoenix Mercury keep this up. I had Espo submit our request yesterday. Mm-hmm. Steven, how you feeling?
There's a nice bit of confidence with the team. I'm doing good. Been keeping busy, to say the least, but I'm happy and proud of the team. Not that my 2 cents matters in that, but this was not an easy win at all, considering the magnitude, who they're going up against, the things that team is able to do. They just figured it out again. That's the value of all those reps they got at the end of the regular season, again, paying off in the playoffs when it matters most. Just figuring it out with that top 8 players and really going down to like 6 when you get to the fourth quarter. There's really only 5 on the court, and then you have like one sub that might come in for a couple of seconds. So they figured it out again.
It was one of those games where the energy was palpable from the time you walked in the door. I was kind of talking about that before you got here. The vibes were high with the team. The vibes were high with the crowd. Vibes were just high. And how hard do you think it is for the Lynx to come into an arena like that where the pressure is as high as it is? You know, not to say their backs are against the wall, but it is a tied series, and the Mercury have 2 games at home.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does make it a little challenging. It's kind of like an uphill battle for the Lynx. Like, how do you think they handled that?
I mean, it's definitely a battle. It's an added element to the game, but I think for the 2 teams that the Mercury have gone up against through the first 2 rounds, there's maybe only one other team that I would include in tandem with these 2 teams where the crowd is not going to have as much of the impact as it typically would for how rowdy they are. And if they're going against any team that is in New York, Minnesota, or Las Vegas, I imagine it's going to be an advantage that is more impactful on the game because this team they're just so tried, tested, and true. They're oozing with championship DNA across multiple iterations. There's just not much that's not on the court that's going to phase that. They're not going to be rattled by much. That being said, it matters that X Factor showed up the way that they did because it helped the Mercury. It's less about impacting the opponents and it's more about just infusing the home crowd, the home team with that much more confidence and rhythm. So now I wouldn't say Minnesota was shaken or shook by as much of the activity, but what I will say they were shook by is the defense from the Mercury.
Alyssa Thomas.
And Alyssa Thomas spearheading that.
My squad had them in a blender, borderline. Yeah. And I want to say it, they kind of had them in hell today. And you kind of could feel that might happen in the pregame when Cheryl, you know, they asked Nate about the officiating and he had his response where he's like, yeah, I like the physicality. Like, you know, this is beneficial for everyone. It doesn't ruin the flow of the game. And then you got Cheryl, who on the other end of that is kind of not saying it's a bad thing, but definitely not boasting it like Nate was. So definitely an interesting battle that came to fruition today here at PHX Arena. Thought it was a fun game from beginning to end. Before you got here, 15 lead changes, 8 ties.
Yeah.
It was
a lot. It was a lot going on. There was a lot going on in this game. A whole lot.
Well, I want to get to, do you have our one-word burns ready, Kevin? Oh, period. All right. Let's get this show rocking and rolling. We got our one-word burns. Mine, it was cinema because it felt like a cinema from beginning to end. It was a movie. Like I said, 15 lead changes. I mean, how do you get better than that?
Yeah.
Full transparency, last year when the Mercury got swept by the Lynx in the first round, I was a little depressed. I went into a little bit of a spiral. And then boom, this year they beat the Lynx, or they beat the Liberty in round 1, and now boom, they're, you know, hosting these semifinals games at home. I got a little emotional, choked up, you know, when the game started. I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. The crowd is full. You got 16,000 people in attendance. And it was a glorious, glorious, glorious view for me personally. And then to watch them win in the way they did, it was gritty. You know, they entered the fourth quarter down by 4 points. They could have felt like their backs were against the wall, and they didn't. They put the Lynx against the wall and told them to figure it out. And they couldn't, and the Mercury did. And so, yeah, cinema. Absolute cinema.
I think that's a great word choice there. Wow. I think that's a very accurate kind of description of what today's game was. I went with pointed because they were very tactical with the ways in which they approached today's game. But it's not just the tacticianship that was on display, but the execution of it. It was very sharp. So pointed, sharp, execution, all of those things in one. That's why I kind of chose that word. We'll get into more of why that was my word choice when we dive into the game more, but that's my kind of description of it, because without that, they don't get this win, and it wasn't a comfortable win, but it's not nearly as comfortable as it ultimately was in the end. If that execution piece in a sustained manner over the course of 40 full minutes isn't to the level that it was, and the competition, the competitive stamina that I've spoke to as well, it was all there. They had all the ingredients needed for them to win a game like this against that team.
Well, and you kind of talked about in the pregame with Cheryl about the margins and winning things in the unscripted plays, and there were quite a few of those tonight, and the Mercury had 15 turnovers, but they still seem to make it work.
Yeah, that's you get to these games, and I know people, I'm saying it, I'm not a head coach, I've never been a coach. but I like when I can tie in a coach to kind of speak into those things similar to how I do, but take it a step further because that's their literal profession and that's what they've been practicing and prophesizing over. Kevin, do we have the Cheryl Reeve pregame clip? No? Okay, so yeah, I asked Cheryl Reeve about the margins and how important they are to this particular series because of the level of play in terms of execution from both teams, how closely the games have been played. And essentially, if I give you the cliff notes of it, Cheryl talked about essentially that was the reason why they lost game 2. Phoenix was 18-10 in second chance points and 25-3 in bench points in game 2. In addition to that, Cheryl gave even further detail on the margins and talked about them including box outs, she calls them checks, that they didn't do. That was a margin that she felt like they got dominated in, which led to the 18-10 second chance points discrepancy. And then the other big one, we talked about it, especially last season in Nate's rookie campaign as a head coach in tandem with Christy Tolliver. Didn't mention it as much this season, but mentioned it in a different light as far as the timing of it after timeout plays. And not just offensively, but defensively. So that's another margin. That's one of the opportunities where a coach, one of the few opportunities where a coach has the chance to put their stamp on the game, decide what plays being ran, what coverage is being played on defense. And no different than tonight's game. In game 2, the Mercury were absolutely dominant in taking that away from the Lynx and also going and converting for themselves. So if the Mercury have a timeout call from the Lynx and they have to come out and get a stop first, they're still going to have a set play that they want to get to if it's not transition or a fast break opportunity. So you get into those situations and you go out and you get a stop and then a score, whether you have the lead or you're working your way back, that changes the entire rhythm and flow of a game. And we, like I said, we saw that tonight multiple times, and we saw that even more so in game 2. So the margins are undeniable. They're just highly important and impactful and effective, especially come this time of year.
Well, and I want to talk about the defense really quick before we get into post-game clips because I think it's really important. I felt, and I talked about this before you got here, like I'm not a stat watcher, I just watch with my eyeballs and then we talk about it after the game, and I usually am just as surprised as they are about the stats. And so the Mercury seemed to really exploit a lot of their defensive matchups tonight. And the Cheryl did not seem to have that same, and I could be wrong, maybe it was just an execution piece, but it did not seem to have that same level of exploitation to matchups that may have been more to their benefit. And the Mercury seemed to really find them and go at them over and over and over again to a point where it became almost exhausting for the Lynx to have to try to recover from them.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, we had a conversation about their defense early. Well, we had conversations about their defense every single episode because that is the identity, and they've been, for my money again and for my eyes, the 1B, if not 1A defense in the W this entire season because of the activity dynamic of theirs. Minnesota's a little more solid and just being sharp and then playing to the rebound. Phoenix is a little more disruptive and takes a little more risk and chances within their defensive process. And to that point, when I spoke to their defense pretty much all season long, I've described it as controlled chaos. Everybody understands that there's calculated risk that's involved. That calculated risk is what assistant coach Michael Joyner calls intelligent aggression. They do a great job of picking their spots within that. Understanding, okay, it's 8 seconds left on the clock. They have no action that they've gotten through. This is an opportunity to apply pressure, but also an opportunity for, if I'm going to pass away, to shoot a gap because there's not enough time for them, even if I don't come up with it, to gather themselves and then get up a viable shot on goal. That's all to the Mercury's advantage when they do their work early in the first 2/3 of the shot clock. So they were really sharp with that. They were very pointed with that. And I'll keep bringing that word up because it's really what it was. They were very sharp. And I think that starts with Alyssa Thomas from my eye in today's game. But I want to continue to shout out Satu Sabali because the tandem job they've done on Nafisa Collier this entire series, it can't be overstated. There's a little bit of Dewana Bana mixed in there as well, but she's been guarding Alana Smith and Kleindakova a little bit more than she's been on fee. So I want to give those 2/3 of the big three a shout out first, and we'll dive into more of that a little bit later. But very pointed in their controlled chaos and their intelligent aggression defensively.
Well, and I talked through a little bit of the stat lines before you got here.
What up, Be Calm?
In regards to the big three. But I want to bring up, before we talk about Be Calm, See Clearly's super chat, Monica
At least say
Cole
hi
McConnell.
first. Jesus Christ. What up, though?
Monica McConnell, especially in that first quarter, she really got it going, and it kind of seemed to get the wheels turning for the team in terms of the offense. She was 3 for 7 from the field, but finished with 8 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. And yeah, the numbers don't even do it quite justice, how loud those 8 points were, especially when she's had kind of a rough series so far. DeWanna Bonner definitely talked about how she talked to a rookie and that needed a little bit of boost in confidence. And you have to know it was definitely Monica Cole McConnell. Throughout the series, she's definitely struggled a little bit, but she seemed to have found herself in the series. And she did her job not only on the defensive end as per usual, but she also got some buckets in there as well. And then had some absolute dimes, just ridiculous. That pass to Satu, that was, I mean, the window was what? 0.11111 second?
Yeah, she had like a foot that she could fit that pass into, and she fitted like a key into a hole.
Yep.
Monique did a sensational job early on in this game. And I think that was something that could have been more than what it actually was. She hesitated on her first shot. It was kind of it was a play without rhythm because I think there was a deflection or a tip in some capacity. And she ended up getting the ball from Alyssa Thomas. And she hesitated to shoot a wide open 3 at the top of the key. And she looked at Alyssa, and Alyssa gave her one of the, what are you doing? Like, you're wide open. And she like pointed at her to shoot it. She didn't shoot it in rhythm, and she missed it. They got the offensive rebound because honk, and then honk again. She got 2 on the first like couple possessions in the first minute and a half of the game. And Mo ends up knocking down the 3 in rhythm the next time she gets the ball in a similar spot. And then she got a layup sometime shortly thereafter. That's the space you want her operating in. I think in the first quarter, she started off 2 of 3 because of the miss. She ended up finishing at 2 of 4. That's the aggression you want from her. She needs to find those pockets to keep herself involved because there's not enough touches to go around with the ways in which they want to operate, which we'll get to a little bit later, particularly with the big 3. If they're doing all of the creation and they're getting all of the attention and you get an opportunity to get a shot that's coming off of the attention that they get, you can't pass those up. Kat Westbell passed up a couple of shots that she didn't in game 3 or in game 2, and she knocked a lot of those shots down. I think it's going to take a little bit of the same in the context with Monique and Cole McConnell going forward, but she did a solid job. I think the last 3 games she's gotten to at least 8 points, if I'm not mistaken. So that's improvement because her scoring just wasn't really there in that first round matchup with the New York Liberty. I think she has a double-digit game in store. I felt like it was today considering she had 5 in the first quarter. She didn't really find too many other opportunities outside of that first couple minutes of the game. But generally, she's operating well because the Mercury don't need players that are going to take shots away from the big 3. They just need players that are going to find those marginal ways to find impact on the team.
Yeah, and Melissa said it when Ka said in the post-game, I just had to remember who I am, man. Fire me up. I heard when I walked in the studio, that's what Kevin was playing on his laptop, and I about cried a real hard, cold tear. It was just, it's honorable, you know? Yeah. It's stuff you just love to see if you're a Mercury fan. So before we go to the break, I am going to read off my guy, Super Chat. What do you say? Be calm, see clearly. Steven, show them cutesy legs. That's why we had to come in Studio K, because this keeps Steven safe from having to show his cutesy legs.
We appreciate you always, Be Calm. You know something going right if Be Calm pull up to the chat.
Facts. But we got a lot of post-game clips to talk about after this quick break here on the PHNX Mercury podcast. Steven, I actually don't know if you've heard, but we might be headed on a road trip. Because if the squad is playing in Vegas, I'm driving to Vegas. And you know who's going to help me get there?
There's a couple people.
Well, first and foremost,
I want to make sure I'm not speaking out of turn.
Mountain America Credit Union. That's who's first going to help me out. Because the MyStyle Lifestyle Checking Account, they help you enjoy restaurant deals, mobile phone protection, telehealth access, identity protection, loan rate discounts, offer on travel, wink, wink, and so much more. Make MyStyle your lifestyle at Mountain America Credit Union. Visit macu.com/MyStyle to apply. Insured by NCUA. Membership required. Based on eligibility, some benefits require no cost registration or activation. Terms, conditions, and exclusions do apply. You already know who the other person is. It's gonna help me
Yeah,
out.
and that's why I didn't want to speak too soon.
Because them other people
I
really
had
gonna help me.
50% chance I would have got that one wrong.
Well, who's gonna help me on the second half?
Circle K, of course.
Woo! My good friends over at
How
the
many?
Circle K.
How many you think we're gonna pass on average driving from here to Vegas?
47.
Only 47?
I feel
That
like it's
feels
only
like
4 hours. That's like 10 every hour.
Steven, how many cows are there on
Hey,
Earth?
chill out, bro. You doing too much, man. You're doing too much. Anyways,
But
you can
yesterday,
get us back. You
thanks
got
to my good friends over at Circle K, I got 40 cents off fuel yesterday, which is just super lit. But you can be just like me. You can get 25 cents off your first 5 fill-ups, 3 cents on every single fill-up after that. And then you can work your way up into the little 5 cent off club. Kevo's in it. I'm in it. Steven's in it. I'm sure Derek, who was ejected off of our show, is probably in it. He might have been ejected off of PHNX Mercury podcast, but he wasn't ejected out of the inner circle, which is pretty lit. Pretty lit. So anyways, you can join and be just like us. Join the inner circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations, all 47 of them. Visit circlek.com for details. Circle K, don't get mad at me for saying 47.
You know what I was doing?
Joke.
You know what I was doing today during the Mercury game? I was stress snacking on some Circle K pretzel stuff with peanut butter. That's what I was doing.
I wanna make sure we shout out friend of the program, Joel. I met him and Christina pregame. Was locked in pregame mode. Just got done with a little pregame meal. With shout out to the Mercury Mercury and the Suns, because one thing they do is take care of the media. You never come to a game dreading what might be on the menu for the team or for the media from the team, and they never fall short of expectations on that. Eric Ruby mentioned from Media Day for the Suns, a little peek behind the curtain. Shout out Keith again. Keith is probably not watching the pod, but he'll feel the energy. Introduce Eric to Keith, who is one of the leadership people with the culinary arts staffing. And we had a nice conversation about stadium meals. And Eric was quick to say that he's had some of the worst meals he's ever had in his life. And I quote that, attending games. And he said one of the most refreshing things is that attending Media Day, that was not an issue.
Wait, y'all got fed at Media Day?
Yes. And
So did we.
The spread was amazing.
Where was I?
No, at Big 12. The spread.
Can we stay on the rails for a minute? I'm trying to show some love, give some flowers, however you want to phrase it. So yes, the Mercury do a sensational job, and so do the Suns naturally, because it's 1 and 1 in the same. But I'm in the process of that, and I come upstairs getting ready to get back in the pregame mode, and I come across Joel and Christina, and I got my headphones in, so I wasn't really paying too much attention, and they like waved, and I was like, oh, took a headphone out. We talked for about maybe 90 seconds or so. They said they were feeling good about the game. They wasn't sure, but they felt confident about it because it was at home. And sure enough, I'm sure they played a big part in X Factor being as loud as they were. So shout out to Joel and Christina. I told them if they mentioned and they hopped on the pod and mentioned me, I would show them some love. So appreciate y'all. And that goes for anybody. If y'all see us wandering around, I promise I'm not ignoring you. I'm just locked in on getting from point A to point B. Don't hesitate to stop me in my tracks and say what's up. Someone else that's not in the chat right now, I took a picture with probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. But yeah, all y'all are some very appreciated peeps in the chat. We can't do what we do without y'all, and y'all do a sensational job, X Factor.
Quick lore drop on Joel and Christina. Great people, fantastic people.
Oh yeah, it's obvious upon
the best.
Hello,
but
for sure.
They have a daughter, Delilah. If you're watching, hi Delilah.
That's their daughter?
Delilah.
All right, now everything makes sense now.
Yes,
I wish
Delilah.
I would have told me that when I saw y'all earlier, because I would have connected the dots so much quicker, but yeah.
Yeah, so
sure.
Delilah can't come because my girl has gymnastics practice on Friday. They told Delilah that if they won game 2 in Minnesota, that she could not skip gymnastics practice to come to the game tonight. So Delilah now, she gets to come on Sunday.
I was going to ask you.
She gets to come to what is now a deciding game 4. She might get to see the Mercury clinch a spot in the finals.
And not have missed gymnastics practice as well. I can't wait to hear the story when Delilah is becoming the next Gabby Douglas or something. And she talks about how PHNX Mercury crew and her parents were holding her accountable to going to practice. And then she got to see the team go to the finals and see Alyssa Thomas get her first ring, Kalia Copper get her second, Satu get her first. Yeah.
You saw what I did, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
It's going to be fun to come back to this. So y'all can clip that, and we're going to have some fun with it in about, 20 years or so? 15 years or so?
Delilah, don't forget about us.
Not to put expectations and pressure on you, Delilah,
but we expect to see you in the Olympics, which is only like in 15 years because she'd have to be like 16, 17.
Listen.
Listen,
you get to greatness by making sacrifices like that, and it's clear that gymnastics matter to you. And I didn't come here for coach speak, but apparently that's what I'm doing. Delilah, I hope you made your great deposits at practice today.
Well, someone who did make great deposits is my guy SPG over at the post-game press conference, and there's some money in here. I already know there's some money in here because I know about one clip, but I know there's other 5, and I can't wait to hear them. So I'm gonna let Steven get us into these real quick.
We're gonna go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off. I wish I heard the yes that Kevin just mentioned. So I want to set the scene appropriately before we hear what we're going to ultimately hear. We saw an absolute savant level sleight of hand from Alyssa Thomas, and it happened so quick at the end of the game, you probably maybe didn't notice what she did. She jumped in one of the pet actions that Minnesota likes to get into, and she took what was an anticipated route and stole the ball from Fee. And she did it so quickly, that sleight of hand. It was unexpected. And she got a breakaway layup to essentially put the nail in the coffin for game 3, the deciding game. Unfortunate side of it, there appears to have been a little bit of contact. I'm not saying it was a foul, but there was a little bit of contact that took place between Alyssa's route jumping and the direction that Fee was headed, to where I think it was Fee's knee. I'm not trying to report here, but based off of what we're going to hear from Cheryl Reeve in postgame, it sounds like it was something knee-related. Cheryl thought that was a foul. There were multiple technical fouls that ensued shortly thereafter.
And two before that. So the refs were fouling on the technical whistles long before this.
Yeah.
We knew it was to come as soon as Cheryl ran on the floor.
It was not Cheryl blowing smoke because of the game being lost and the moment that took place. She genuinely felt like her best player, for her money, her MVP, was fouled and didn't get the call. But it was a build-up to that moment. She felt like there were multiple moments over the course of the game where Fee didn't receive a whistle that she felt like she deserves off of her cachet and style of play, but also earned based off of the way she was playing in the game. Now that the scene's been set, if you have children, we looked out for them with the bleeps. But this is what Cheryl Reeve had to say in postgame, and I want to, before we get to it, no questions were asked. She came in and she said what she said here.
And this is the look that our league wants, for some reason. We were trying to play through it. We tried to make excuses. One of the best players in the league shot 0 free throws. 0, and she had 5 pounds. 0 free throws. Had her shoulder pulled out and finished the game with her leg being taken out, and probably has a fracture. And so if this is what our league wants. Okay. But I want to call for a change of leadership at the league level when it comes to officiating. It's bad for the game. The officiating crew that we had tonight, for the leadership to deem those 3 people semifinals playoff worthy is malpractice. I can take an L with the best of them. I don't think we should have to play through more than what they did. But got players moshes on the glass and gets cracked, and there's no call. And all of them said it wasn't my call. I don't know. I didn't see it that way. Awful.
She didn't mince her words at all. She's very articulate, and she knows how to speak on things that she wants to get her point across. I feel like, obviously, if you lose a game like this one and you also lose potentially your best player for what could be the rest of this series, it's going to come with a heightened reaction, especially in the heat of the moment. This is like maybe 30-ish minutes after the game ended, but that's still entirely too soon to when the inception point happened, or inflection point happened, rather. I want to choose my words carefully just because this is a sensitive topic, but I do understand where Cheryl is coming from, where if you're allowing for physicality to get to a certain point in the game, it's going to leave players more susceptible to injuries because there's no like stoppage in the build up to it. So I understand where she's coming from with that. At the same time though, if these are the two most physical defenses in the WNBA, and I think the third team would have been the Atlanta Dream. If you coming into the series as an official, understand that you have two of the more physical teams, you're not going to want to get in the way of the flow of the game too much. Now, if it's something egregious or ridiculous, of course, absolutely. But even to that point, we've seen players from both teams between games 1 and game 3 tonight sprawled out on the floor, and we're anticipating a call, and there's no call to be had. And the other team's taking off in a 5-on-4 or a 4-on-3 or a 5-on-3 sometimes, as another teammate is helping their player up off the floor. I feel like we saw that pretty much evenly across the board. I think the other thing is with some of the play in the paint, rebounding is a physical dynamic of the game.
Yep.
And these possessions matter for both teams. So if they're not calling things that are not necessarily over the top, and that's the tone they set from the beginning of the game, I think everybody kind of understands the precedent they're working up against. And I think naturally, if you close your eyes and you take away the injury and you say this is going to be a game where it's not going to be that many fouls called, there's going to be a lot of bodies bumping in the paint in particular, you would say this is pretty much on brand with what I would expect from these two teams if officials allow for them to play their style of basketball. It's a tough part of it. The Mercury have certainly been succumbed to a lack of calls for a majority of the season.
Yeah.
But my one counterpoint would be that Phoenix took significantly more shots at the rim tonight than Minnesota did. And we talked all season long about Phoenix not getting calls for as often as they spend time in the paint and at the rim, especially with Alyssa Thomas spearheading things with Satu shortly thereafter. And Kalia right there in that mix. 3 players that spend some of the most time in the paint across the league. That's going to lend itself to you getting at least marginally more calls than your opponent.
Yeah. It's a tough situation because, to your point, like they both play physical brands of basketball, and you know, you're as a fan, you're probably never going to be satisfied with the amount of calls on either side because I mean, even I'm sitting there watching, usually from a biased lens of I want the Mercury to win on the foul count, you know, in terms of how many times they're going to the free throw line. But at the end of the day, like, the refs are going to ref, and there's not, you know, Cheryl did say this in pregame as well. Like, you have to control the controllables, and that's not the refs. So, you know, to Steven's point, like, rebounding is a very physical activity. You're not going to not bump bodies if you're going to the rim to go get a ball off the glass. You're going to box someone out, especially if you're trying to box out Maria Klunikova,
yeah,
like
for sure.
You're gonna have to bump some bodies in that situation.
And you're not like sized as she is either. Like the Mercury aren't playing.
They had Sammy and Kat on her at one point, like trying to out rebound her, and they did, but still, no less. They had to do something to get it.
And Dewana Bonner has been working up against the tree that is Klunikova since game 1.
Right.
Like that's gonna naturally induce physicality.
Right.
She's going to dish some, but she's also going to have to take even more because Klunikova knows that she has the advantage in stature and in height. So there's give and take there for sure. For sure.
So, yeah, I'm glad we got that out of the way, ripped the Band-Aid off because it was fun. Don't get me wrong. Like, to be honest, I don't think there was a moment in PHX Arena that was more lit than that all season long than when Cheryl got ejected, to be honest with everybody. Like, that was...
And Mike Tebow got ejected.
Yeah.
Or Eric Tebow. I think it was Eric.
Whichever
Tebow. I think it was
no
Eric.
Disrespect. That's actually
ejected.
major respect to the Tebows. But
yeah, for sure.
I'm dying at Derek coming by to report that we are live with the pod. But all right, big win for the Mercury. So let's get to post-game clips from the Mercury.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
So we had a lot that was going on in post game. We can start with Nate speaking to everything that was the big three. So I had a chance to ask Nate Tibbetts about this maybe being the first game, and I haven't had a chance to double check the stat sheet, but because there's been so many ups and downs with the big three trying to find their rhythm, scoring in tandem with one another, all in the lineup, I feel like this is their first game where they've all scored 20 plus in the same game. And for it to come at a point in the season like today, in the magnitude of a game like today, again, it's very pointed. So here's what Nate had to speak to about all of that was the big three scoring in tandem with one another.
Yeah, I mean, we've had great balance all year. I mean, I was just thinking that coming down, seeing 23, 21, 21. Mo was the next closest at 8. We probably envisioned more of this throughout the year than what we had, what has happened. But, you know, AT was consistent throughout the whole game. I thought Kyle was unbelievable in the first half. Sa struggled in the first half, and then in the second half, she really got going. And, you know, this is what we had hoped for, right? And, you know, they've stepped up in big moments.
Just to that connectedness with those three, it feels like approach-wise, they were very pointed with the ways that they were going about operating in the half court. What kind of goes into the trust and the buy-in and just ultimately resulting in a big win and a big moment in the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it says a lot about our group. When you bring great players together, you never really know for sure how it's going to work. You know, we did a great job of finding Kyle early. I thought in the first half, Sa may have kind of forced some things. I think she was excited about the game. And then the second half, I was extremely proud of her, how she let the game kind of come to her. Come to her. She didn't force it. And we had some big offensive rebounds and found her. She's just fearless, and she made some big-time plays down the stretch.
Hey, Coach.
So very, very, very impressive offensive showing. We got a few things that we want to get into kind of stemming from that one before we get to the rest of the clips. From Mercury PR, Mercury had 3 20-plus point scorers, obviously the big three. It marks the WNBA's best 6th time the Mercury have had 3 or 20-plus point scorers in a playoff game. Last time it was done was by the Las Vegas Aces big three in the finals in 2023, excuse me. So a little bit of history on that front. Very impressive. The ways in which they went about doing so was important. So before I kind of dive into more of that, Erica, how impressed were you by each of those three scoring 20 or more? And what does it kind of say to you in terms of their growth individually and in tandem with one another?
Well, it has to excite all levels of Mercury fans because we've been talking about it all season. Like, they haven't really got a chance to get to this point all season. But it leaves me feeling very excited for the future of just this series and potentially the next series, because when you got your big three firing on all cylinders like that, first of all, it allows for everybody else's jobs to just be a little bit easier. Sammy doesn't have to worry so much. Dewana doesn't have to worry so much. Even Mo and Mac, they don't have to worry so much because, well, we got our big three who are big and loud and will get the job done on every level, every night, ending in Y. So it was a huge, it says a lot about this team. It says a lot about this coaching staff. It says a lot about the resiliency that comes with being a part of the Mercury right now because of how much adversity they've had to go through to get to this point with the big three being where they are now. So if you're excited like I am about where the big three are, be sure to leave a like on this podcast. We got 65 people watching live right now and only 39 likes, and I don't really like that. I would like to get up to at least 55 before the show is over. So if we can get to 55 likes before the show is over, and potentially even more, maybe I don't know, boom a thunder stick or two at the end of the show if we can get to 60 likes.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, y'all heard what she said. Like the video. And while you at it, make sure you send it to a friend because we got some more things we're about to get into. But back to the big three in this scoring. I think what stood out to me was, and this is a build up to this moment, and it really just kind of shined a little differently today. So game one, They come out and they ran their most pick and rolls the entire season. In that game when I think they got up to like 68 pick and rolls that they ran. A heavy dosage of that was Alyssa Thomas, and everything that is the pick and rolls led by her, whether it's Sammy or Monique, or sometimes it's Satu screening for her, sometimes it's Kalia, depending on who their individual matchups are. Game one, it was a lot of them trying to get to Kayla McBride and Bridget Carlton, who I spoke to after the Mercury won the round 1 series against New York. Game 2, they went from trying to involve those two defenders as the person who was guarding the screener that Alyssa was able to attack, to a little bit more going at Courtney Williams in the second half of game 2. And that kind of stood out to me because they also did the same with Natisha Heidemann. And naturally, you get to game 3, and they have to play a lot of lineups with both of those two on the court because there's no Dejanay Carrington. And those are pretty much the only guards. It's those two and Bridget Carlton for them.
Yep.
When they have to put those two in lineups together, the Mercury did not let them off the hook. They said, no, one of you two is going to have to guard. And a lot of times they were able to do it with both. If one defended it well early, the other one had to defend it late. And there was going to be some type of crack or crevice for them to correct. That's very pointed. That's very intentional. That's very sharp. Yes, all of that. They did a great job of mixing in Satu. You got one of these two matched up on you off an offensive rebound, dive straight to the post. Go get it up top and finish over the top. Alyssa was very directive with getting them in position. No different with Kalia. She scored 7 straight points in the second quarter, I believe. And it was all with Courtney Williams guarding her. One time she comes off a stagger. The next time she comes off a handoff. And the other time she just cuts through the staggers and goes straight to the middle of the paint and says, give me the ball. And she gives Courtney Williams a too small and lets her know about it every time she scores on her former teammates. Friendly banter, competitive banter, nothing ill will by it or about it. I really appreciate that because that's the bully ball dynamic. And I meant that in a complimentary way when I said it earlier in the season. Satu has not allowed for smaller players to cross-match against her without having to pay for it. Yep. Whether taking hits and sending her to the free throw line, which she got there 11 times, which we'll get to a little bit later, or she's just putting them under the basket and putting up the too small as many times as she did. And then with Alyssa, you know what time it is. Anytime someone small is around her, they're probably flopping. And I'm glad that, again, the physicality of the game didn't lure the officials into, oh, my God, that's a foul. No, it's not. It's someone trying to sell a call. And if it is a call, it's a blocking foul. The fact that they just swallowed the whistle honestly did Minnesota a favor in multiple respects because early in the season, Alyssa was getting close to foul trouble because you get Lexi Brown and other guards early in the season that are selling that call, Erica Wheeler. They're embellishing and they're getting the benefits of it. And the referees are being duped. So that's growth for the Mercury being intentional about that, but also for the officials and not calling those things.
Yeah, hats off to them on that. And, you know, to your point, the Stud Buds did have they combined for 33 points today, which actually was the best performance from Natisha Heidemann of the series. But they made them work for it all game long, and they made them pay for it on the defensive end too. They did not look sharp on the defensive end, which puts Mercury in a very good position to do what they've been doing. The Mercury isn't the tallest team in the league. They're not the biggest, but they will exploit the crap out of you. Their coaching is where it's at, and they know what matchups are going to work for them and what is not. And so that's what lends themselves to winning a game like this in the way that they did.
Yeah, you get to these playoff series, it's about finding, because any play that you're going to run, your opponent's going to know what it is. So you're not going to usually get an advantage off of the play you're trying to run or the first action that you get into. So now it gets to, where can I find something to poke at within the way you're approaching us defensively to flip it into an advantage? And for the Mercury, it's their size. But it's the size from their wings and their guards because of the ways that they use Alyssa Thomas. Alyssa Thomas, if she has a 4 or a 5 that's guarding her, that player is out of the paint. You put that in tandem with them hiding Natasha Mack in the opposite corner, and she's setting flare screens or pin down screens, not with the intention for that player to get the ball that she's screening for, but to hold that attention of the opposite big. So take one big away from the paint because AT has the ball. You take the other big away from the paint because Natasha Mack is busy on the second side. That allows for Kalia to duck in. That allows for Satu to go back door. And that allows for Alyssa to make more clean passes without having to worry about a true big player that's in the paint and they can play to their bully ball tactics.
Well, and he doesn't mean bully ball in a derogatory way. So
No, it's taking advantage. You're going to put smaller players on our bigger players. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
when we talk about pick your poison, have your doubts.
Matchup problems.
Matchup problems. And that's what this team is full of, is matchup problems on both ends of the court, too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough. When we talked about positionless basketball, this is what we were talking about 3-4 months ago at the beginning of the season in April, when we were having a conversation at the end of media day when, he said the infamous, mid-range shots are extinct clip that everybody went to haywire with.
So I'm glad you brought that up. How many middies did you see Kalia Copper take today?
A lot. And you know what? In the first half, they were all going in. All of them. Everyone. It was ridiculous.
People were really speaking kind of recklessly about Nate Tibbetts because of him challenging his players within their shot profile.
Borderline out of line.
So, and to the point, if Kai's not taking the threes that she is, if Satu's not taking the threes that she is, that math game goes severely at a disadvantage for the Mercury. Not just the taking of the shots, but those two players are capable of making threes, pull-up threes, catch and shoot threes. They're creating for them, and those two creating for themselves. You have to take those at a steady diet to balance things out. It's not to say that they want to completely eradicate the mid-range. You go there when it's appropriate timing-wise, and that's exactly what they did in today's game.
I don't know. It was great. The shot selection, to me, when Cog is in her rhythm, that's what I want to see her take, personally. Cog's got that acrobatic style when she's in the air, and you just know when she rises, and you can look, and it looks like it's 10 yards between her and the ground. And it's an eye test game, but literally it looks like she jumps so high that you could fit a yardstick under her and still might have a little bit of room. So she just gets up there, the arc on that shot, it's going in every time, and it's nasty. It's hard to guard. They tried over and over again, and they could not get it done. And, to your point, like, it's tough to see the things that people were so quick to pick on the Mercury about, and it's, kind of been their bread and butter. Yeah,
Satu knocked down middies in game 2. Kai knocked down middies in game 3. It's not that they're eradicating it. It's just that it's coming at a more of a diet than it is the first thing that they're trying to get to. And it's putting the team in a better position to be successful as well as themselves because of it. Next clip we want to go ahead and get to, Kevin, we can talk about Satu speaking about the Mercury being counted out all season long. I don't think anyone's surprised that everyone picked against the Mercury in round 1 against the reigning champs. They knocked them off. They have the team that was going up against the reigning champs on the ropes now. And needless to say, most people, all people from one of the 4-letter sports companies picked against the Mercury again. Here's what Satu had to say in response to just being picked against pretty much all season long as a team.
We started out the season, I think, ESPN, all of them, they ranked us really low. And to me, it's a disrespect towards those two. They're gold medalists, they're all-stars, and to put that type of disrespect towards people who've literally been in the league for so long, Kai's won a championship, like, that just fuels us. And we're the underdogs. We have something to prove to ourselves more than to others. And I think this is really what bonds us. And I can really say, like, I've had the most fun this year just by being motivated, coming to work, them motivating me. Like, they're not taking it easy on me and want me to get better. And this is exactly what I came here for. So it's just such a nice feeling, and everyone brings it to the table. Like Sammy, with her energy, it just fuels you. When people tell you you're not good enough, like, don't back down. Just really believe in yourself, believe in the people around you, and keep your circle tight. Julie?
Listen, you're not going to have a finals countdown on your TV in training camp if you don't have a championship mentality. I've heard the Aces talk about it. I've heard Dawn Staley talk about it before she passed away. Pat Summitt would talk about it. Championship teams are a feeling. They have to have a non-tangible thing that feels like a winning team. And this team has felt like that since the beginning of the season. Even before the big three were whole, when we were winning the games off the back of Kalani Brown and Lexi Held, like, it still felt like a championship caliber team. And they have been counting them out all season long, and it's done nothing but add fuel to the fire.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to flip it. Instead of trying to question people and all of that, Satu answered it eloquently. It's all about the people that are in that room with you, the people you are putting in sweat equity and building up that trust with on a daily basis. Bunker down, stay in lockstep with one another and attack it, but use it as fuel to the fire. Remember, y'all counted us out, and look at us now. So I like the way that they've flipped that into a positive. Other teams we've seen allow for that to affect them and impact them in some capacity, and that's not the case with this team. You have someone that's as experienced as Alyssa Thomas and someone that's won it all and won it against the odds, literally as the lowest seed in the playoffs, like Kalia Copper has. You're not going to be fazed by people picking against you. You're going to implore for it, and that's what they want. Keep that same energy, as Kalia Copper would say.
I like that. Keep that same energy. And when we're coming to you live after Game 4, talking about, I don't want to say it. I'm gonna make that the headline. Keep that same energy.
And to that point, in keeping the same energy, Alyssa Thomas spoke post-game about them staying composed amidst the game, like Erica mentioned, that had so many back and forth moments where the lead is changing and different runs and high emotions of energy and things like that. So here's what AT had to say about them staying composed amidst it all.
Lead changes 8 times. This was tied up. Just can you describe just the emotional roller coaster for you guys and just staying calm?
Yeah, I mean, we know it's going to be, a tough series. That's what playoff basketball is all about. I think for us in the moment, we always talk about never getting too high, never getting too low. It's a game of runs. They go on one, we go on one. It's just about doing the little things. So we just try to stay composed in those moments, and we'll go for this.
You said it perfectly. Just gotta weather the storm essentially over the course of these games. Usually the most composed team is gonna be the one that wins it. Naturally, we saw things get to a certain extent with Minnesota at the end of the game. Last year's Mercury team, and I don't want to make like the 1-for-1 comp, but they wore their emotions more expressively, and it felt like at moments it was appropriate because it sparked something that led to a run for them. But you got to watch for the timing of those. And you saw Kalia give the "I'm not answering this one" gesture because she got caught in conflict a little bit after she scored one of those baskets against another basket against Courtney Williams. And she was letting her know about it. Again, the friendly, competitive banter between two players that are genuinely friends off the floor. She was letting her know about it. And the official got in the way of that and felt like what she said or did was too much in response to scoring on Courtney and called a tech. And Minnesota went on like a 16-6 run shortly thereafter. That's enough to shift a game, especially in one as pivotal as a Game 3 is. So they were able to rewrite the ship and get things back in order, but you gotta step carefully with those things because that's enough to be to your detriment.
Well, and you can throw the whole train off the rails.
For sure.
Like here we are talking about 2-1, and the Mercury is in a great spot right now. Win or lose, they're still in Game 5. So, they have a chance at anything right now. And they could have been robbed of that chance because trying to win that 4th game with your backs against the walls is got to be pretty tough. So, I think it was an excellent. They stayed locked in, and to your point, you're 100% correct in that. If this was a copy paste from last year's team, they did wear their emotions on their sleeve, and there probably would have been 7 techs in today's game instead of just the 4 that we ended up seeing. So I'm obsessed with the fact that they've gotten it kind of under control. Even Nate Tibbetts, at one point today, like he did run out of the court. I do want to talk about the fact that they did not let that man get his challenge off in regards to out of bounds call, and I'm not very cool with that. As someone who celebrates literally every single Nate Tibbetts one challenge, and the fact that I was robbed of that moment in this game, granted, the moment I was not robbed of was the victory, so fine, whatever, but I was pretty mad about that. But proceed.
Yeah, I think Nate has also done a great job of fostering a culture to where he gives his players liberation to wear their hearts on their sleeves, but also tapers it enough to where it doesn't get in the way of the team's success and what it is they're ultimately working towards. because what they're working towards is bigger than the moment. The moment matters in the steps to that, but it's not bigger than what it is they're trying to get to. And I think Kalia understood that, and she spoke about it in the postgame, actually. She said she had a bout with it in that moment, and she said she got to be better with it, and then she just kind of said it's cool, but with the wording that lets you know she's accepting of the accountability. But getting back to the game, we got 2 more clips to get to. Looking at Satu Sabali and Alyssa Thomas defending Nafisa Collier. So they've both done a great job of kind of pushing Fee off her spots and doing their work early so that they can be successful later after she does get a catch. Here's what Satu had to say about all that is her and AT defensively in tonight's game. Some of the movement that she likes to get into and the spots they like to get her to and kind of throwing the offense's rhythm off. And then for you, Alyssa, we talked about the hedges a lot this season. It feels like y'all are just very disruptive and kind of setting the tone in the primary actions they like to get to. What kind of goes into, I guess, being a step ahead of an opponent? Obviously, preparation is bigger on the playoff stage, but what kind of goes into that?
You kind of said a preparation, knowing. I feel like she's a routine player that really gets her spots in an elite way. And you have to shut that down because she has her, 50, 40, 90 season. Like, that is really big. That is hard to do. And to disrupt that, like, you have to be an elite defender. And this is what we have on the team. And this is really teamwork, really disrupting. We had a lot of tips on her, too. So it's really team effort and just knowing where she wants to go. That's good.
Satu's grown so much this season. I feel like we've watched her blossom in a sense. Like on the fly. Like, because I think she understood that some of, not even in a negative way, but the ways that she operated with Dallas would not be what's conducive to winning at levels that she hasn't been to yet. If you want to see change, you got to do things you haven't done before. And I think she's around 2 pillars in Kalia and Alyssa, but also even DeWanna Bonner now that have been there before and done that before. And they were able to kind of steer her along the way.
She completely understands her responsibility.
Earlier in the season, she was more expressive in her typical fashion. It's not by them saying, hey, you got to stop with that. It's her understanding, I don't have to do these things because we have other ways we can go about getting that back, starting with the defensive end.
Yep.
And I feel like she's leaned more into that composure. And again, we're seeing the best version of Satu Sabali for multiple reasons. I think it starts between the ears, and Kalia Copper kind of spoke to just that growing up over the course of this season from Satu that she's witnessed so far this season earlier today in shoot around with me. So hats off to Satu for that. We're seeing her best basketball because of it. And Satu also spoke to the confidence factor and that carrying over for the Mercury after a win like today's.
I keep saying the believe in us carries us. We really pulled something unbelievable, and it was like I said, like fun to play. And we knew coming here we were going to have our home crowd, having our bags, just sleeping in your own bed. It's just nice to be at home, and this is what we deserve to be here. We got to steal in Minnesota, and we really fought for that. So now we're going to keep on fighting and get that next game.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, ladies.
The clip of them laughing. Inject that into my veins. Can you put it in a little Smithsonian? Replace the Eiffel Tower with a video of them laughing. Like, that's incredible stuff.
I tweeted this during the game. Fun fact, while we were waiting for them to figure out one of the loose ball situations, they got challenged. The Mercury haven't lost a game these playoffs, this postseason, if Satu's knocked down 2 threes. In tandem with that, though, Satu getting to the free throw line has been huge. I mentioned it multiple times throughout the regular season. Whenever you're trying to gauge a barometer for how much force she's playing with, look at her free throws. I think she's been averaging 4 over the last, or going into today, she was averaging 4 the last 4 games. Today she had just broke the gate open and kicked the door down with 11 attempts. That's from her efforts on the offensive boards, getting to the paint, playing through contact in the paint. That all was just sensational. And again, that's her growing up in real time.
Yep. And again, she understands the responsibility that's on her back. When they sell the big 3 construct to the fans, they sell the big 3 construct to Nate, they sell the big 3 construct to the rest of the assistants, and frankly, the rest of the roster. Like, she understands that she has a job to do. And part of that job is not celebrating after every made three. It's getting back on the other end of the floor so she can defend, Nafisa Collier or whoever else is her matchup of the day. So
all 5 players on the court.
Right. She did her job and she did it well today.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get out of here really quick though. And I want to make sure that you, me, and Kevo get our projections or predictions real quick. So I think you went first last time. I'll go first this time. I'll just volunteer myself. I think Mercury are going to get it done at home in the game 4. I think, to the Lynx's detriment with Fee going out, Lord knows, and, prayers for her, and we hope she gets better. We hope to see her in game 4.
I hope she plays in game 4.
You
absolutely.
want to beat the best of the best,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to beat the team that got there. So, while, the Lynx were 8-2, I think, without Fee, like, you still want to be playing the best version of the Lynx in the semifinals of the WNBA playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Mercury are going to win, and I think it's going to be a little bit closer than tonight. I think it's going to end up being about 82 to 79.
Kevin?
I don't know about the number, but I will say this. You have to win, I feel like, next game. I know it's not like a gotta have it or a must win.
No, it is. It is. It absolutely is.
I guess I meant more so mathematically. But
Gotcha. Yep.
with the MVP star candidate out or injured or playing hurt, whatever the math is on that, whatever it ends up being, you got to get away with a W. You cannot let the Lynx get a win on your home court with their star either hobbled or out. Give them that confidence heading back to Minnesota. So this, in my opinion, 82 to 70. I think it's a close game, and then I think the Mercury pull away near the end.
Yeah, you go ahead. You stole the words out of my mouth. This is a gotta have it and a must win. And I say that because you did all of that work at the tail end of game 2 to draw the series back even and to have home court advantage the rest of this 5-game series. Shrunk from 5-3 after the first 2 games. You have 2 of those 3 games, back-to-back games at home. You go and get that first game, you have to get absolutely selfish and greedy and figure out how to get it done. As you have done all playoffs long, just figure out how to get it done. Because it looks like that series on the other end of the bracket is probably ending soon. Feels like the Aces are finding their footing. And you don't want to have a competitive disadvantage going into the finals, but you also don't want to play with the food that you're presently eating. You need to go and handle your business in a timely manner, and that game is the biggest game of the season for the Phoenix Mercury at home. You don't want to be going to Minnesota to play an extra game if you don't need to. And whether Fee plays or not, the standard is the standard. You did all of that work in these last 2 games to have that opportunity to close out at home. You got to handle your business. And to that point, I think it's a 80 to 71 win for the Mercury. And I think Kalia Copper and Satu Sabali probably both get to double digits again.
Combined for 50 points.
Yeah, that would be fitting for sure.
All right. Well, we got to get through these last super chats before we get out of here. Start with one from BComC Clearly, where my guy says, "Hi, QT, demure legs, Merc up, big Merc energy." I agree. Dubs in the chat.
Merc up, big Merc energy for sure. Appreciate you always.
Hidden Sun Village says, "Hi, QT legs, man. Sunshot loves you, man." And then BComC Clearly also did a little Googling in his spare time and said, "Is Alyssa Thomas single?" Google search that again.
She, in fact, is not. Hate to break it to you.
Don't let DeWanna Bonner hear that.
She's more than happily engaged.
And then BComC Clearly says, "Why does AT's game remind me of Nikola Jokic?" I'm sorry, guys. Okay, I'm not an NBA girl.
It's because she sees the game in like quadruple time compared to everybody else, and she just has nothing she can't do in an impactful way on the offensive end of the floor. And she always has the ball in similar spots. So she's a savant on the basketball front of things, especially on offense, and her team feeds off of that.
Well, I just want to say thank you to all of you for being here on this fine Friday evening. If you were at the game, thank you for coming. Be sure to be there for Game 4 on Sunday. This is a huge, huge, huge game. Like, we literally have never heard Steven say that this is a must-win game. Literally since last year when they got swept by the Lynx in the playoffs in Minnesota.
Well, I had a couple of gotta have it, but to your point, this is the first must win for sure.
So I'm feeling it now, Miss Krabs, as the kids might like to say. So thank you all for tapping in with us. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe to PHNX Sports while you're at it, and we will be back with you guys on Sunday for another post-game edition of PHNX Mercury podcast. We will see you then.
We all city like the mayor.